Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session. Today we have Bhusi Ashok Kumar with us, who will be giving us a session on GitOps security, best practices and challenges. We'd like to know a little bit about Bhusi. He's an engineer with us, engineering manager with Encora, and as part of Encora Elements, we do these free workshops twice or thrice a month. And he has a lot of experience in the IT industry, and he's also had the privilege of working on diverse projects across AWS, Azure, GDP, etc., and gaining in many managing infrastructure and applications at scale. He holds certifications in Azure, AWS, and various other certification programs. He also has proficiency in GitHub Actions and other essential DevOps tools like Ensemble, Jenkins, and more. He is passionate about mentoring and has led teams of skilled DevOps engineers at Encora, and is very happy to share his experience and teach us and give us insights to help us learn more. He also thrives on finding creative solutions to challenging problems, whether it's learning new skills or traveling to gain fresh perspective. He's always on it. If you'd like to know a little bit more about what he likes to play chess and caroms. So with that, I'd like to hand the session over to Bhusi, and he will take it from here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for your nice introduction. And I'm very excited to see the participants here to learn. And I am also eager to know more about the new questions and new type of things what the team, what of the participants are looking for, and which will help moreover for the both, either for the participants and for me also. It will help a lot to upskill or to know more about the things. So without late, let me jump onto the webinar. So today's webinar we are going to discuss. Okay, so first I would like to greet everyone. So good evening, all of you. Today I want to introduce you to the concept that is transforming the way we manage and deploy the software applications. So it is nothing but the GitOps. So GitOps is not just a tool or a software, but rather than a strategy or methodology that you use. So it is a modern software development strategy that uses not only Git on declarative infrastructure and applications to make the application and the operations very effectively and in an automated way. So here in GitOps, the Git of which is a version control tool, leverages and enables teams to automate for provisioning and management of the infrastructure through code. So in this screen, you can see GitOps is equal to the infrastructure, ISE, infrastructure as a code, and coming to the PRs and MRs, which will be as the pull request and the merge request, and coming to the CI/CD. All these combination will be treated as the GitOps. So those are the not only I can say it as treated, I can say it as the components of the GitOps. So what this exactly the GitOps allows us to resolve, leverage all the benefits of Git and collaboration, compilation, and transparency. Generally, this approach ensures that provisioning of management of infrastructure are as agile, secure, and fast as code changes. So these are the ways how we can implement and bring all the components in together and help the application in a good automated way. So general, in essence, like GitOps empowers team to automate infrastructure provisioning using the same Git. So pull requests they use for the code changes, making the entire process more streamlined and error proof. So let's see what will be in the coming slides. Let's delve into the deeper into how the GitOps can be implemented and its key benefits, the tools, and what is the security practices we need. So why we need to concentrate on the importance of this security in GitOps. So generally nowadays, any application or any organizations look forward for a secure and an automated, streamlined structure which does not affect their application. So now that's the reason I bring this importance of security in GitOps. So let's see what comes into this. So generally, first the thing is you need to secure your repository and also use for this vulnerability scan. And next, how you are managing your secrets, like credentials we need to pass. So some of the applications will use internal APIs, so those credentials also need to be passed to them, but how we are passing and how we need to secure them. And if anything comes up, so how we need to monitor and alert. So generally, are we looking for the reactive base or proactive monitoring? So these are the two conditions we will be looking, and the regular updates and the patches. Let's jump on. So if I say secure your Git repository, so what will we be doing it? So we need to ensure the security is the security is the paramount, which includes the strong access controls, enabling the branch protection rules. So simply creating a branch and giving some access and providing the match permissions and pushing the code. It is not the way we need to manage. So we need to follow the some branching strategies where it should have some policies to be attached, like a merge restrictions. So few authorized persons to prevent unauthorized changes to the repo. So we need to have specific authorization approvals in order to push the code. And we also need to have the two-factor authentication for all the users who are using the repository, and I mean the dev team, the developers who are pushing the code or doing some changes to the piece of code. It's all about making sure that only authorized persons can make changes to the repository, so that we can make the repository secure. And now coming to the scan for vulnerabilities, how we can do it. So we say generally the regular practice of scanning the code. So how this can be done? So regular scanning of the code can be done with the integration of some tools, SaaS tools we can say. So which will do the some sort of scanning when the code is getting pushed. It will check the code quality and any malware issues were there, or any unauthorized activities, or is the code is affected by the miscellaneous or the hackers like that. So that type of testing will be done. So basing on the code quality and the parameters we give, basing on that report, the pipeline will be pushed forward. If there is any failure, then definitely it will push back and trigger an alert to saying that developer, so this is the pipeline got failed. So because of this issue, please check that. So the developers or the code who is pushing the code, they need to check the again whatever the error it was. So again later they need to rectify it and they need to trigger the pipeline again. So by this way of integrating these tools to the CI pipeline ensures that every pull request is checked before it is matched. So by that way, we have the vulnerability scan done. Next, coming to the secure secrets management. So as I said, so we have the critical secrets. So we need to manage the secrets or the credentials, I can say. So which we all need to pass through the pipeline, or maybe the application APIs might be using it. So now, so how we can encrypt these secrets at rest and manage them separately from your application code? That is the major thing which we need to. If any way these passwords or API keys got exposed, then the application is definitely in a trouble. So the hackers get a chance to whatever they can do it on the application. So that is a major thing. We need to secure our secrets very effectively and using some say best management tools. So we will discuss that in the upcoming slides. Now coming to the monitor and alert. So any issue coming up in the pipeline, it should be notified. So generally the pipeline ran. and it does not throw any error, or it passed away. So, but even though if it has passed the pipeline, then we need to know that the pipeline got passed, and the so and so details, the code quality is so, and the concerned person, whoever the code pushed the code changes and committed, those are the details also should be known. Because why we request them, the proper alerting will help to identify the exact things proactive, not the reactive. Whatever the things happen after that, if we come up, then it will be reactive. So, like that, we see in some of the movies. So, police will be coming after the crime has done. So, that is a reactive one. But if you see some cases, there will be a proactiveness. So the incident, before the incident is happening, so someone come up and they'll protect it, and they'll make sure the incident not happen. That is a proactive. So we need to be the proactive persons. Either it might be a developer, it might come into the DevOps, or anyone. An engineer should be a proactive person. So that's the reason we use this monitor and alert part. Coming to the regular update and patch, so this is also one of the major thing I can say, because if you see currently we are using some versions which are applicable for some of applications. So specific number we will be taking, but how long we will be using it? If that application version got deprecated, so we won't have the proper patches and proper support from the vendor. So what will happen then? So there is a chance for the attackers to use some of the vulnerabilities and create some disturbance in the application. So because of that, we need to be always regular in updating the patches and update the versions of the application basing on our convenient and application which is support for them. By this, we can also automate it. Not only manual process, everything we need to automate. If it is automated, the process will be rolled out swiftly and consistently, minimizing the window of opportunity for attackers. So by this, I would like to close this slide, which is very important for us to know why the importance of security in GitOps. Right. Now, let's move on. So, how this GitOps workflow will go? So, most of the people know, who are working with any Git, any repository tool like with CI/CD. Most of the team knows it. The major one is how the repositories are handled, and how the code is merged into the application, and how the vulnerability scans are going on, and which CI/CD tools we are using, and how the Git repository or Git operator will push the built image to the as an infrastructure. So we have this type of flow which already everyone knows. But let me walk through you few steps here. From let's take it here, the starting will be the code. At the core we have the code repository. I can say which includes both our application and the infrastructure as a code. So this where all changes begin. Users typically, and the DevOps engineers or the dev team, whoever is making modifications, updating configurations or tweaking application features, they'll pushing to the repository. And from there, the CI/CD pipeline, once the changes are committed to the repository, they trigger the CI/CD pipeline. The automated pipeline performs various checks, and it also verifies modifications to ensure that they meet the predefined standards. That's what we discussed in the earlier slide. What I'm saying about the policies, what we set for the approval. So once all these tests are passed, so now the pipeline will be moving forward to the deployment phase. So either for the CI/CD pipeline, we may use multiple resources like the Jenkins, Bitbucket pipelines, GitHub Actions, or there are Azure DevOps or AWS pipelines, anything, whatever, basing on our flexibility and our application requirement, we can work on. So coming to the deployment, Git operator. So once everything is verified, the Git operator takes over the next responsibility. So this component is responsible for continuously synchronizing the desired state of the infrastructure as defined in the repository with the actual state in the environment. So if I take, so generally we do the sort of testing on the UAT, or I mean staging or the QA, and we will go for the deployment on the production. So now it acts as the changes approved and merged into the main branch before that. So once this is a deployment happens, so then everything is verified, then the application is launched using the Kubernetes clusters or EC2 instances, whatever the Docker images, whatever we have, based on our flexible environment of the microservices or the monolithic application. Anywhere the application will be launched. So now found that the application was not properly deployed. Then manual, if you are going for the manual approach, so there are a lot of steps which need to be documented very clearly. If we does not document it very clearly, then it takes a lot of time. So let me take an example. If the application, production application got error or issues, so which require an immediate rollback. So then this kind of automated way of using the GitOps strategy will help, because we have the feedback loop, the infrastructure which reflects the changes, and any outputs or results which flow back into the system, providing the feedback to the users in terms of logs, alerts, or performance data where we are monitoring. So by that, we'll get an alert. So application is not running properly, or the infrastructure there is some issue or error. So how we need to do it? So immediately, with the help of this Git operator flow, there is an option. We have the rollbacks. So by using the Git as a single source of truth, every team member is always aligned with the current state of the system, and rollbacks or adjustments can be made quickly and accurately. So this all about the flow, how this flow works upon. Hope I believe till here it is clear. So coming to the GitOps security risks. So whenever any application we have, we need to concentrate on the negative side. How the what are the risks of there? Basing on the positive, everyone looks at the positive end. But what happens if the positive end we are looking at, someone will be there who is trying to look into the negative one and trying to peek into the application and do the changes, and which is also called as a vulnerability in the operations. So let's see. So in this, I can say common security vulnerabilities, which comes under the misconfigurations, secret management issues, inadequate access control, and pipeline security flaws. Let's come by one. So what is misconfiguration? So these are all the human errors, I can say it as, because the most significant risk comes from human errors in setting up infrastructure and applications. Just a simple mistakes in code or oversight in security settings. Uh, these might create an error, pose a big risk to GitOps security, as they might lead to vulnerabilities that can be exploited by attackers. So we need to verify. Misconfigurations should be avoided with the human errors. So in order to avoid it, we can do some sort of actions which can automate the verification process and a second opinion from other reviewers. So where they can review the code and approve it. So by that way we can do it. So one of the causes the misconfiguration. Next, coming to the secret management issues. The general practice. So most of the cases, what we do, we store our API keys or the secrets, passwords directly in the Git repository, and we think that if we encrypt it, so there won't be any issue, because whoever need to be the decrypted, they need to have the access codes which you are having, but you think that the other attacker doesn't need it, but that is the mistake we do. If we are keeping our passwords and API keys on the repository in the state of encrypted, it is a risk, because it might create a chance to accidentally expose and provide an unauthorized access. So we need to use some robust secret management like AWS Key Management Services or Azure Key Vault, HashiCorp Vault, or Ansible Vault, or GCP, like this. Whatever the application we are using, cloud level or on premises, whatever the infrastructure if you are using, basing on that, we need to create some secure vault which doesn't have all the keys on the repository. They should call them that that can prevent these type of exposures. So, and next coming to inadequate access controls. So strengthening access controls is very much important. Generally we provide the access to the developers based on the requirement, but suddenly the employer leaves the organization or leaves that project and he's working on another project. So immediately, so we need to have the proper control system which need to be provided. So that access controls are very play a crucial role in managing the repositories and playing the good security level. If it is not done, so in a repository, n number of people will be adding, but there won't be any removal. So we don't know how the chances for the exposure and how the chances for the leakage of the data of the repository will be there. So we need to make sure the access controls are very much inadequate. Pipeline security flaws. So the CI/CD pipeline, generally we have the automating the deployment process, which can also introduce vulnerabilities if not properly scanned. How? Issues can arise from outdated tools, as in the previous slide we discussed. So updating and security, regular updates and patches. As we see, if it is an outdated tools or we are using or a plugins we are using, then vulnerabilities within these components can be exploited to alter the deployment process, or they might be give a chance to inject the malicious code also. So by this, addressing these risks involves a comprehensive security strategies that includes rigorous testing, proper access control, secure handling of secrets, regular updates to the tools, and plugins used in our CI/CD pipelines. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here I bring out two examples for the security breaches in GitOps. So see, one is the case studies of one, which is misconfigured Docker image, and the second one is exposed secrets in repositories. Let's come on to the case study one. So how this misconfiguration Docker images will affect and what is the actual issue? So Docker images, generally what are the misconfigured Docker images? Because of this GitHub workflows, so they are automatically deployed and it might lead to the expose of sensitive endpoints. So what is the impact? Generally what the impact will be, attackers exploit these endpoints. So whatever the application you are using, the way attackers will hold the endpoint, with the help of the endpoint only they will try to get into the application and do the things whatever there, until unless we have some security different layers are there, which in these layers the endpoints will be proxied and they will confuse the attacker and they will close it and they might block that also. So because of these endpoints, attackers exploit and gain unauthorized access. So what resolution we can make? The resolution is nothing but it's very simple. The configurations were corrected and deployment process was updated to include automatic security scans, as we see the same point which we discussed in the slide number 2, where we have some monitoring as well as the vulnerability scan is there as a second point we discussed in this next slide 2. So there, because of the integrating the security scan SaaS tools, it will do some sort of scan and give the report there itself and trigger the issue and help us to solve it. Let's jump on to the second case study. So what it is. Issues generally we discussed here, sensitive secrets which we are committed to public Git repository where you are using the GitOps workflow. What happens? Generally, The exposed credentials were used to access the database or resulting in data theft or something. So generally, currently, what is happening in current scenarios, they are not hackers or the attackers are not diving into the application, and they're not doing any kind of things like creating some orders or like, they are more majorly concentrated on data extraction. They are pulling out they are thefting the data of the customers from the application. So we need to be very cautious about the credentials storing. So if the credential was exposed, then we lost the data. So that will be a big issue for the application. Now, the resolution is simple. So we follow the secret management tools. We can move all the secrets from the repositories to the secure vault, from where we can pull out the, or else we can call the variables, call the credentials in terms of variables, which will help us to overcome these type of issues also. Right. Let's see one of the interesting topic here also, which is mitigation the strategies. Uh, so as we identified the key security risks inherent in GitOps workflows, it's essentials. It is essential for us to discuss how we can mitigate these risks effectively. Let's see how it helps us in terms of these four strategic approaches to bolster our security posture. Now, the first one is implement robust configuration management. The first step in mitigating risks is to ensure robust configuration management. Uh, Maybe you can say, what is robust configuration management? This involves regularly reviewing and auditing configurations to compile or to comply with our security policies. Regular audits and reviewing of the configurations is very much important. So mistakes in configuration can lead to significant vulnerabilities. Hence, maintaining the script control and oversight is also critical. So with regular reviewing and regular auditing the configurations will help us enhance secret management. So we discussed this risks of inadequate secret management in the earlier slides also. To mitigate these, use dedicated secret management, which again the secure management tools from all other uh, applications or the tools we can use. And strengthen access control. So since from the starting of the third slide, we are discussing about all these points again and again, because how critical it is and how why we need to implement it. So access control, another it is also a crucial mitigation strategy to strengthen access controls. We can apply the principles of least privileges across the board. So this will help. So if we are having the least privileges provided, this means it only allows access to resources that are absolutely necessary for the users. So rather than giving the access to all of them, but giving the access and giving it narrowed down. So it helps us to provide the access to the necessary users of the, yeah, to perform these tasks. Right. Let me move on to the next. Secure CI/CD pipeline. So securing the pipeline is imperative. A regular update and patch for the CI/CD tools and dependencies to protect against known vulnerabilities. Like this, we can secure our CI/CD pipelines. By implementing these strategies, I can say we can significantly reduce the risks associated with the GitOps and ensure a secure, reliable infrastructure management environment. So let's keep and let's follow this. So move on to the next type, GitOps workflows. So let's see what are the best practices for enhancing security in GitOps setups. So these already we discussed, but on an overview, it's like secure access controls and branch protection management tools. So how we are managing it. So for the secure access controls, we can implement like role-based access controls or multi-factor authentications, which provide the least privileges to minimize the risk of unauthorized access. And we also need to maintain audit trials, regular audit trials, and monitor the controls regularly to detect and respond to any security incidents swiftly. And next, using signed commits. Excuse me. So what are these signed commits and what are the branch protection? In order to safeguard the integrity of our code base, we enforce the use of signed commits. This ensures that every change made to the repository is verifiable and traceable back to a trusted source. So like this, we can also implement the branch protection rules to prevent unauthorized modifications. Like we have some options in the repositories, branch restrictions, in that we have merge restrictions policies, who needs the access and who can push the code or push the commits, and as well as how the commit should be made, whether it should be pushed without any approvals or it need to be passed some of the checks, med checks or not. So by this way, the signed commits and the branch protection will help. This layer of security helps prevent code tampering and we can also say maintaining the integrity of our development deployment process, right? Okay, let's move on. So the next one is secrets management tools. Yeah, here it comes. So what tools we need to use? So if you are using AWS, we have the option to use AWS Secret Manager. If it is Azure, like based on the specific cloud. So it is not restricted to only those tools, but we have few more like Vault, HashiCorp Vault, or Ansible Vault. If you go to the Kubernetes, we have the Kubernetes secrets. We can integrate those type of, but which should be good tool. It depends on the application we are using and how securely we are passing the variables or the passing the credentials through the repository. Sorry, not from the repository. It should call from the key management tool and pass the value in the application with the help of the variables. By that we can do it. With these practices, I can say the security framework that not only protects our application infrastructure, but also ensures that the GitOps workflows are resilient against the threats. Next, so automation with security in mind. So what it is? Every time managing the activities manually is will not help. So definitely we need to focus on automating the secure deployments using some tools by integrating security into the deployment process effectively. Let's see how in this it will. Uh, integrating security in GitOps tools. The primary aim is to seamlessly blend security practices within the GitOps tools. This includes the CI/CD pipelines to incorporate security measures such as automated scans, compliance checks, and we can also integrating the secret management directly into these tools. We can safeguard the data and sensitive data through the deployment process. So next, demonstrating tools and technologies. See, nowadays we have a number of tools coming up for the CI/CD process or CD process. So majorly we have, I'll bring out few things in there. So we utilize several advanced tools, but in this I bring out the Argo CD with security plugins, Terraform with Sentinel, and Flux with image update automation. So coming to the Arco CD with security plugins, it enhances our deployment automation by integrating the security checks directly. And in Arco CD, we have the flexibility, like it checks any changes happened, any images got pushed, it will sync the data. Any changes has happened, it will sync the data, and if there is any issue, it will fails there itself. And next time, if I want to go or a rollback, it is a very easy process for us. Now, the same way, if I use the Terraform with Sentinel, it also utilizes a policy as a code framework. It enforces compliance and security standards across our infrastructure configuration. Then what about this Flux with image update automation? This is nothing but it automatically updates container images in a secure manner, which ensures that not only verified, trusted images are used in the production environments. This will help us very effectively in our production applications without any rollbacks or failure of the application. Right. Next one is security checks integration. So how? As we already discussed, it is an automated security scans and compliance as code, implementing the review checks and compliance checks as a regular audits and regular reviewings with the regular intervals of time. That will help us to have the security checks integration and help to keep the automation and secure our deployment. Right. Yeah. Through these strategies and tools, we can automate not just tasks, but also the enforcement of security, making our infrastructure resilient against threats and compliant with the latest security policies. See, let's get on to the next slide, which will discuss about the compliance and governance. So here I bring up with four categories. That is nothing but ensuring compliance with industry standards and regulations. Also, regular audits, continuous compliance monitoring, implementing governance frameworks with GitOps practices. Also, the tools for compliance auditing and reporting. So, by this, we can ensure that our process adheres with the industry standards. Because whatever the application we are following, it should be and strategies we are using in our deployment process or developing application process, it should rely on the industry standards. So in order to make that our processes are being adhere with the industry standards, we need to follow these. So ensuring compliance with industry standards and regulations, the foundation of our governance framework is strict adherence to the industry standards, as I discussed in that point. So if you're following this and implementing the necessary controls, it will help us to meet the standards, which may include the data protection laws, security standards, or industry specific regulations. Let me take an example here. So earlier in the past couple of years back, we came up of the ransom virus. So ransomware, which by that time no one knows about it, and all are having no idea about the theft of the data. Like some attackers are doing it individually, but ransomware came up and it pulled all the data and created a huge loss to the industry standards. So then the team came up, and again the regulations got changed, the standards got increased, and they have made some changes. So if I'm not following that, so what is the need? Again, my customer or the application which I'm preparing, it will have the effect of your for the ransomware or any new viruses coming up. So that's the reason we need to ensure the compliance with industry standards is must ensure. It is an important pointer I can say. Regular audits and continuous compliance monitoring. This will help to identify any deviations or gaps in the regular practices. So generally, what I in my XP projects I do, and with my team, we follow the security audits. So whenever a release is going on, we need to do this thorough testing should be done, and application wise it's okay, and the security level, the type of tools we can use, Sonar, Burpsuit, or some other application tools for the scanning purpose. We can use them and we can identify the gaps. So it will help us to ensure that continuous compliance monitoring will help us to have the dispensaries and any vulnerabilities or any standards gaps are addressed proactively. So, as I mentioned earlier, proactiveness. Proactive is very important than the reactive. So, the actions, whatever we are taking here, all are related to the proactive measures, which will avoid the incident to happen. So where we are 2 steps ahead before the incident happens. So we are observing it here itself and holding it tight and making all the checks, which is helping us to take some advantage of the security vulnerabilities not to happen. Next, implementing governance frameworks within the GitOps practices. Like we need to set up the clear policies and procedures that dictate how changes are managed and deployed. So we should be very clear here. Once again, I am repeating, governance in GitOps involves setting clear policies and procedures that dictate how changes are managed and deployed. Right? These type of actions includes defining roles and responsibilities, establishing approval process, which also ensuring that all changes are logged and traceable, logging and monitoring, which we'll call it as the observability, which is very much important in managing and deploying an application. Right, let's move on to the next. Tools for compliance auditing and reporting. So, for the effectively managed compliance and governance, utilize specialized tools that facilitate the auditing as well as reporting. So every time a human being sitting here and an IT professional or an engineer sitting in front of the machine and collecting all the resources and reporting and preparing an audit and making a report and submitting, it takes a time. Rather than that, we can use some tools which help us to track the compliance and manage the documentation, which also generate the reports that are critical for internal audits, rather than getting the details at the nick of the moment or maybe as a reactive measures, not at all suggestible. We can make some automated tools or use some help of the scripts to automate all. Like we'll have a lot of data in terms of logs. We can uh, pull out the logs and we can filter that and we can create some scripts to pull out the extract the data which is useful for us and manage some documentation and generate the reports. Together these elements help us a robust framework that not only supports the technical operations but also ensures that the practices are secure, compliant, and governed by clear standards. Right? Okay, let's move on. So I won't take much time. Let's move on with this. Troubleshooting security challenges. Yeah. Now, maintaining the security standards, following them, it's fine. What about the challenges, if anything come up, how we need to troubleshoot it and how we need to follow some kind of approach. So that let's make it more simple. Mm, the three common security issues I can bring out here. One is the misconfiguration, as we discussed earlier, and compromised secrets and unauthorized access. So if I come to here, misconfigurations, often the most common problem will be infrastructure or the applications are incorrectly configured, which are leading to the vulnerabilities. That This might include improper settings in security control or incorrect network configurations or even errors in the code. So if we are trying to analyze how where the step happened from the errors, how the error we got, what are the errors we got, and what are the data we extracted, and where is the issue? Like, is it at the code level, or it is at the infrastructure level, or it is at the any network side level, or it is at the infrastructure comes under the memory or CPU or whatever the Docker images we are using, the related configuration details. With that we can. And compromised secrets, we need to verify whether the credentials are stored in any particular vault or we are using anywhere in the code. So if you are identified that, so I have some previous experience with this. So one of the developer has used his access keys in the code. Now the developer is not working with the project. Now when we identified it, we have done this security sort of analysis and found the breach has happened with the help of the credential which he has used, and the software or the credential he used is not that much strong, and it also used in the server itself or in the application level. So then by verifying these type of the secrets or the keys which were stored at any infrastructure level or the code level or where we are passing them, so with that help we can identify and we can avoid the compromising of these secrets. And another is access. This is very critical, I can say. This can occur when access controls are insufficient or when credentials are compromised. But uh, which the because of this unauthorized access, it can allow attackers to manipulate, steal, or destroy the important data. So manipulating, steal, destroy. If we are having the robust configurations and security, we can hold it. But not with that, then we are in a big trouble. So we need to make sure the access keys, as I said, one of the project breach has happened because of this access key and the password weak password. So we need to make sure we need to have the secrets and everything stored at a secure level. Next. So let's see what are the tips for proactive security monitoring and alerts. So one thing is implement comprehensive logging and monitoring, which comes under the observability. We can make this automated and centralized logging system to collect all the security logs for analysis. And like tools, you can say New Relic, Prometheus, Grafana. And with this help of dashboards, we can extract the data and we can analyze it and send the alerts to monitor at how the system health and security effectively handled, and setting up the automated alerts. So as a primary practice, whenever application is there, we generally practice it. Like how it is, we need to define the thresholds. So in earlier when I was in my career starting, so I don't know understand how what are these thresholds and how I need to make conditions to be triggered. uh, the main question comes up there only, why and how. I don't know all the things. What is the threshold value for the CPU memory hike? I can keep 75%. But for a critical application, I can make it as 80 also. Because whenever a memory or the CPU alert triggered, then by default, if the host is unhealthy, the server will be down. During that time, I need to make a wise decision to make the proper threshold value to set and make the application available for the users, which should not interfere the user interface. And at the back end, what I need to do, a spike came up, immediately I need to start working on it, not to increase that spike to it is at a 85% threshold, and now it is going to reach to 95%. That 10% of time I need to leverage it to make help the application to be work in a stable condition. So this automating alerts will definitely help to have a proactive approach. There are many tools we can use like PagerDuty or to to trigger the alerts or the SNS or SES services from the Azure or a cloud services, AWS or Azure, GCP, whatever it may be. If you are more interested in having the much more details, some of the financial organizations, they will use a PagerDuty, where the alerts are very critical and very important in a security management things. So that type of tools we can use. And regular security scans and audits. So every time I say these security scans and audits are very much important. We need to have the regular audits, like every monthly ones or twice a month, depending on the actions we can, how vigilant our the application is and how secure the application need to be have. So we have different sectors domains, whether healthcare, finance, e-commerce, or other LLMs or the learning platforms are there. So wherever it is required, based on the application criticality, we need to have some regular intervals of audits. And these audits also should be have automated security scans. It's not on the production. I can say it on the lower environments, which will help us to identify the application vulnerabilities priorly. Right. So let me take one of the case study. I'll bring out, as I said, we have many sectors. Like here, I would like to take financial services. So the challenging will be increased deployment frequency and operational efficiency, that is while maintaining rigorous compliance and security standards required by the financial regulations. So every time the financial regulations will be changing based on the standards they put out. So further, regular deployments are also need to be there. So what we do the GitOps integration, security enhancements, challenges, solutions implemented. So by this GitOps integration, generally we'll have the organization is having the initial state of manual deployments where the rollouts and configurations errors are high and rollouts are very slow. Where in a manual approach, what I can say, an application, whenever a rollback is required, then definitely it needs very fast approach, because the user, if I'm using an application, I will not hold for 10 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 1 hour, the application is down. So I will not prefer that application. By default, I will go back to the other application, try search for the alternatives. So as a customer, if I feel like that, then definitely if I'm whatever the work I'm doing, the opponent, the other users will also feel the same. Now to avoid that, we can implement the GitOps integration, like using Argo CD for Kubernetes deployments with declarative YAML files in the Git or any other repositories, and security enhancements like secret management. We have earlier discussed, like managing them using the vault or secure management vaults like HashiCorp or secrets and other. We can enforce GPG signed commits, like signed commits as we earlier discussed, the same way. With that, we can have the code integrity verification. Next, coming to the challenges. The general one is when we are trying to implement any new feature or the new standards in our process or the flow, definitely all the team must not have that knowledge, or they will not, might be they feel that a rework will happen, or they need to spend some time to have the rework and make that stabilized. So that type of things will be there. But the complexity in configuration things lies where if we take Kubernetes and using the time of Helm charts, we'll have some sort of things. So we need to make sure, if you are introducing any kind of strategies or policies, we need to be ready to train the team in a interesting and easy ways. So they feel not they should not feel very bored, or what is the thought of this approach? We can go manually. So we need to come out of and we need to show what are the implementations we can make, and how interesting we can make it out, and how the process will avoid the reworks. So by that we can these are the challenges we can face, and those I feel also. Finally, the solutions what we implement. Uh, as I said, training and workshops, giving the team very familiar case studies and asking the team to have over site involvement and getting some feedback and improvising them like that. So all these following things, and we can also use the utilizing the open policy agents to enforce the organization policies to be involved as per the compliance checks. Benefits. So everything will come under the benefits and results only. So we are finally here with the results and benefits, which will increase the deployment frequency. Not only will it lead to not 100% or 300, 200, more than that we can expect. And security compliances, reduced complaints for violations through consistent security policies, and also auditability. Traceability and auditability of changes or easier compliances, the audits because of these security enhancements what we are doing in integrating things. Right. Yeah, I'm here with the open with the questions if any team audience are having. So I'm very happy to answer those questions. And if not only in this session, if I have any questions in further, then I can take up and you can have my details here.
Ashok, thanks for that wonderful session, I should say. And today we don't have any questions as yet, but as people keep watching the video, questions will come up. So I will also ask them, direct them to you.
Right.
And thanks for that, Ashok. That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thanks, David. So just let me conclude it the session. So what are the we covered here on the fundamentals flows of the GitOps and what are the security and what is the importance of the security practices we need to follow and what is the importance of compliance and governance and how the troubleshooting security challenges we need to follow and the real world application implements how we can do it. So these are the things I covered here. Maybe I may not covered all the essential things. Maybe out of the pointers what I have, I presented here. I'm happy to have the questions from the audience. Drop your questions and very happy to come up with the new things based on your comments and the questions. That will help a lot. And here I can give some readings related to some reference links where you can go through them and have some more insights on it. Finally, thank you everyone. And thanks David and NPTL
And
for giving me
thank
the
you, Busi. That was a great and very clear session, I should say. Thank you for that.
yeah. Thanks David. Thanks Vignesh. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.